any owner out there, the charter system's the way to go. I think if you're going Outlaws, you're going based on loyalty at this point. I mean, if you're a car owner, that charter system is just proper business in motorsports.
Yeah, I don't really, I know the charter system is in NASCAR, but I could not tell you the first thing about it. I heard something about they sold the last one for $40 million or something like that, but
yeah.
I don't really know a whole lot about it. Obviously, I read all the articles that they talked about. But what I will say is, I think it's a very interesting way of approaching it. This is part of those things I was talking about with High Limit trying to change the game and do some different stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I love the World of Outlaws, man. I'll always love the World of Outlaws, but we've been doing the same thing for a long time. It's been the same thing for many, many years. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't change what ain't broke, but it's time to maybe change the game a little bit, right? And that's where High Limit steps in. They have this opportunity, a brand new thing, to try and do some different stuff, and I like the way that they're going about, implementing who gets the charter, right? Top 5 in points, and then the next year it's another top 5 in points. After that, it's a little murky, they're talking about adding 4 or 5 more or whatever, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how much that 50% of the flow revenue is going to be, but I'm guessing it's got to be pretty good for all these guys to be signing up and all the hype behind it, I think it's an interesting idea. Obviously, it's not going to come to the point with NASCAR. All these guys are like, oh, man, if you have a charter with High Limit, you're going to get a provisional to every race, even if you miss all of them. I don't think that's the case. I don't think you're going to get a provisional for every race if you have a charter with High Limit. That's not how it works. This ain't NASCAR, man.
It still feels like that with some of the Outlaw teams, does it not? It still feels like they get a charter, but it also or not a charter, but a provisional at every race. It feels like some do. Although Outlaws go to some areas where they're the only 410 ticket in town, and there's not enough cars to even have a B main sometimes as well. So
you start out the year with 3 provisionals with the Outlaws, and then I think after June 1st it resets. You get 3 more, and at World Finals and at Volusia at the beginning of the year, you get a provisional for every single night if you need it. There's no other way to get in the show if you don't make it. So. We saw Brad Sweet not make the show at the Kings Royal this year. Was it Kings Royal or was it? Yeah, I think it was the Kings Royal. He didn't make the show, or maybe it was the Million. I can't remember, but one of those ones he didn't make the show. I want to say it was the Kings Royal. He did not get a provisional. He literally did not start the main event. The World Outlaws champion did not start the main event at the Kings Royal. Right? He doesn't just get a random provisional. So I don't know, man. I see all these people worried that now sprint car racing is going to turn into a playoff format and. Everybody's losing their mind because it's going to turn into NASCAR, blah, blah, blah. Dude, come on, guys. I mean, people, I just think they make stuff up to get a reaction.
Words have become catchphrases. It's just like the word liberalization. Like if you go actually look into what the word liberalization means, it is almost the opposite of what you would catchphrase liberal. Just like when you go look into what an actual charter system is, you could say it's like NASCAR, but how NASCAR does their charter system, they done it a different way or done this or done that and screwed the teams and maybe they did it wrong. And I think that's why Brad kind of said it's more so like a franchise into the series, because I think NASCAR has kind of smeared the term charter system in the social domain. People just don't like NASCAR, especially this culture we're from. So anything NASCAR does is evil, it seems like. And
right.
Their phrases and words are evil as well.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. People don't like NASCAR, so when a sprint car deal implements something from NASCAR, they automatically think that it's a bad deal. NASCAR
liberal.
stole the Tone. Yeah, NASCAR stole the choose cone deal from sprint cars. How come nobody was complaining about that? They steal stuff from us, and we steal stuff from them. I think it's, sometimes the other deal has a good idea.
And we can learn from their mistakes.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Yeah, that could be it.
It's easy. How did they screw up their charter system? Here's how. Okay, well, sprint car racing, let's not do that. One thing that kind of helps with their charter system is they can implement safety changes to cars and things like that because it's more organizational based. The only backside to a charter system, I would say, is I know that High Limit's running on this whole freedom factor thing right now, but come charter system time, I've never really seen a charter system which basically you become almost like not a gang, but a group, a legitimate group, and you're in it, and the only way to get out of it is to sell it. I kind of described it as a boat slot at a yacht club. You have to sell your slot to leave. You can't just like leave. Um, the only thing is, down the road, usually charter systems lead to total control of things. And if the organization gets greedy like NASCAR, what NASCAR did was they went around and bought all the racetracks. So you can't have a competitive stock car series like USAC used to have stock cars. There was a bunch of different car organizations. But when NASCAR started buying up the tracks and own everywhere you race, you can't have a competitive organization at their tracks. So it does kind of lead to more so non-freedom, but it depends on what mistakes and what you do and where your moral compass lies in that scenario, I would assume.
Yeah, I think Rico said it the best, man. I feel like it's kind of an investment, right? I think if you're able to get one of those charters this year, next year, right, and you plan on racing a sprint car for the next 10 or 15 years, and you plan on racing with high limit for the next 10 or 15 years, it's like buying a stock, right? And I've done a lot of that, and I've lost a lot of money, right? I don't know. Don't ask me for financial advice because it's terrible. But
Bitcoin.
I think it's buying a stock, right? And if High Limit does everything that they're talking about they're doing, and I think they will, I really do. I think they're going to come true with all their promises that they're making and all these ideas they're bringing up. It is a determined group of people behind the scenes to make all this happen. Then that charter in 10 years or maybe even less than that is going to be worth a lot of money, especially with that line graph I was talking about earlier with the with the popularity in sprint car racing on the rise like it is right now.
And with the supporters of Flow. I mean, Flow has some big supporters behind it to push it.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, the one thing I'm just curious about is, how are they going to go about giving the next couple, right? Is 10 not enough, or is 20 too many? Is 15 the right number? They still have a lot of details to work out, obviously, and the charter thing isn't going to be even in effect till 2026, and that gives them plenty of time to work out all the kinks, right? But, I think it's hard to also judge what everybody's saying about this stuff, about the charter thing, when we honestly don't even know how it's all going to work yet. It's just, it's an idea. It's coming to fruition a little bit, right? But we don't know the fine print. We don't know all the stuff that goes into it. So it's hard to judge it, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's hard to judge it. And I think, with your 10 or how many they're going to let in, even though they are signing up with a lot of teams to start the year, we see this in the late model world a lot. Usually teams do drop off. I'm not going to sit here and say that if you won't. That's the one thing that the late model industry has, though. And I think that's the biggest difference is they got organizations that, 30-ish that can afford to literally travel nationally and race on the road all the time. I think in sprint car racing, we don't have 30. Well, they probably got 40 probably, but if you consider the ones who don't even sign up for a tour. But I think we don't have as many car owners that can even attempt to go national full-time money-wise. I do think that, though, this charter system funds the owners enough to where it could become profitable to be an owner, which hasn't happened in a very long time. And so you may have teams come and formulate or people invest into the sport to buy cars and be team owners if it's a viable investment. Right now and previously, investing in the sport as a car owner is a tax write-off at the best or something sneaky. There's not too many profitable car owners. There may be some profitable drivers, but I don't know too many car owners that are saying we're over here making money. I think that's where the charter system does open the door to allow that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one thing we need right now. It's just more car owners, and it's hard to even fathom being a car owner with all the money that it takes to make it happen. You got to have a business, you be a very successful person, or you just got to win a lot to make it work, right? And I think this charter thing, man, I just want to kind of fast forward 2 years from now and see who the 10 guys are that have the charters. Will a guy like hang on, let me go over here. I need to look at the roster right quick of who's in and who's out as far as the high limit goes. But I want to see who some of these guys are that are going to get a charter. and that could seriously help them continue down the road. Like, here's a great example. Could potentially that Vermeer Motorsports 55 car get a charter? You know, that would be a huge deal to that team, because I don't know all the backings behind the scenes and stuff like that, but I would be willing to say that Vermeer Motorsports and, you know, Casey Kane Racing are not on the same level as far as, you know, all the equipment, the trailer
Right.
and the crew and stuff, right? But if Vermeer can get one of those charters and be in the top 5 in points one year or next year, dude, that could be a game changer for those guys
Right.
and keep them
Well,
around
and
longer.
and say they go out this next year, and Chris Wyndham hasn't really, been a superstar winged racer. I mean, a Vermeer may be like, well, we got to put a hitter in the car because we need a charter ride, or maybe here's what I'm thinking, Chase. If High Limit goes out here and does all fine and dandy and has a smooth year, no matter what the competition with the Outlaws is or whatever, we get to the end of next year and 5 spots are locked in and you got one more year. I don't know any intelligent car owner in sprint car racing who is not going to switch. I just don't
Yeah,
understand why you would not immediately switch now and go and try to be profiting owning race cars in this sprint car sport.
that's a really good point. I mean, next year, and I meant to try and find this while you were, Sarah. Actually, I'll get it here in just a second. But if
If you
let's
need me to
just
keep going,
say
I can for 10 minutes. I mean, it's
no, no. Okay, here we go. I got it. So let's just say next year, right? Brad Sweet, Rico Abreu, who are 3 other guys that are going to be the top dogs in High Limit? I mean, do you think Spencer Basin will be top 5 in
I
points?
think I think Tyler Courtney. I mean, it's a hard list. It's hard. It's harder to tell. To me, it's harder to say the top 5 in High Limit than it is to say the top 5 in Outlaws. Personally,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think, but what I'm getting at is, if those best 5 guys have a charter after this year, like you said, how can you not, knowing that the 5 best guys are already locked in and there's still 5 more up for grabs? How can you not, convince yourself to go over there and try and get one of those charters? And if it doesn't work out, maybe you go back to the Outlaws, right? If you don't get one, or you go back to being a pick and choose or a true outlaw or whatever it is, I think next year could definitely be very interesting, knowing that there is going to be 5 charters available. Yeah, there you go. You got on the screen right now.
yeah,
Rico and I think, here we go. Brad Sweet obviously is going to have one. I think Zeb Wise, I think, is going to be very, very close. Peck, Rico, what is that, 4? And then I think it's going to be a close one between maybe Corey Day and Spencer Basin, right, for that 5th
yeah.
one.
But I'm hearing Marks is coming, buddy. I mean, Marks and Tyler Courtney's coming. I'm hearing potentially McFadden in the 11. You got a hell of if that was to happen. Let's just say that was to happen, and then if you were to, I mean, Macedo's the teeter-totter one. But if that was to happen, if you brought Marks, Courtney, and McFadden in the 11 over there, God, how are you picking 5?
How are you picking 5? Yeah, I mean, you ain't wrong, man. And obviously there's a lot of hype for this year, but with what those things in mind that I just mentioned, like, next year could be crazy as well. I feel like next year is when you could see some of those outlaw guys switch over, like a Gravel or something, right? Or
Yeah,
a
it's like
Geo maybe.
who? That's what I'm saying, Chase. What's
Yeah,
intelligent car owner is not going to jump over immediately and say this is my
does
last chance. I'm a top tier outlaw team. Let's just say one of the top ones. This is my opportunity to. I know I can beat these other 5 guys. Whether that's a Gravel or a Donnie or whoever. Logan Schuhart or Sheldon. I know I'm better than. I'm not saying he is and being cocky, but he would say I'm better than Casey Kane or Corey Eliason. I'm just saying. How would you not make that switch? I just don't know how
yeah.
you would not make that switch as an intelligent car owner with that
I
charter system.
I 100%, but I think that, and this is me going back to, my old place of employment. I think that the Outlaws are going to do something to try and counteract that, right? Maybe they come out with their own charter system. I think that, I don't
Need
have
to.
any insight, but they are going to do everything they can to try and do something either the same or very, very similar that is also extremely enticing to the team owners. They're not just going to lay over and watch this happen. They're the freaking World of Outlaws, man. They've been around since '78. They've been adjusting to all these crazy changes that they've came through 2 of these splits before and came out on top on the other side. You know, they're going to do something to try and stick around. And I'm not sure what that's going to be yet. I don't think anybody does, but they're not just going to watch it happen.
This is how we ride. This is how we do.